Hello, I'm Richard Chambers, and welcome to another episode in my continuing podcast series, Speaking of Risk and Audit. And we have with us today Rania Bejjani, risk management and internal audit leader with over 25 years of experience. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Richard. A pleasure to be here with you today.
Now, Rania, your background is so fascinating. Maybe you could spend a little bit of time and tell our listeners more about it.
Sure. So, as you have kindly pointed out, I bring over 25 years of experience. I am originally from Lebanon. My family moved to Australia, and I started my career in Australia with Qantas Airways in audit, amongst other things, and moved in and out of audit into finance, and then really found that my passion is in audit and pursued a career there. I spent a number of years at Deloitte, and I was chief audit and risk executive in 3 different organizations, Call Technology Services and First Group in the UK, and also Vian in Amsterdam. And a big theme in my CAE roles has always been about transforming and elevating internal audit into a strategic advisor. For the last few years, I've been running my own boutique advisory, mentoring, coaching, and training business, helping and empowering audit and risk leaders to also elevate their game and do great things in the profession.
You know, Rania, your background is inspiring, and I think prepared you ideally for the kind of work you're doing to help chief audit executives and internal auditors work really hard to elevate the level of service that they provide. But, you know, we recently completed another internal audit month, and every year that's a month in which internal auditors work really hard to make sure their stakeholders and others around the world are aware of what they do. That's a challenge in any environment, but we had some data that came out last year from the IA, their Vision 2035 report, that showed that we've really got a lot of work to do when it comes to how we're seen, how we're viewed in our organizations. In fact, 48% of those who responded, and I think over 6,000 people participated in this survey, 48% said they're seen as the police in their organizations. And another 21% said that they're seen as boring. So what is the challenge there, and what can internal auditors do to start to work through that transforming how they're seen?
This is such an important matter and one that I care deeply about. Actually, what you also haven't mentioned in that particular survey is that only 36% said they are respected as auditors. And that, for me, is a serious concern. As an audit leader, I've really paved a whole career based on making sure that audit is truly seen, truly appreciated, and is a catalyst for positive change in the business. So when I speak now, I'm speaking from personal practitioner experience, having done it and having had great success. As a chief audit and a risk leader, I had really earned the trust and the respect of the board and the business who sought our advice. And under my leadership, I have mentored and coached 20 current successful chief audit executives. So I know that it works, and now I support my clients. So to change that perception and transformation is about building trust. It is about being strategically aligned to the business. It is about building the connection and the relationships, adding value, and showcasing leadership. In other words, it is really about becoming that strategic business partner. And so how do we become a strategic business partner? It is a rich, interdimensional way, because it is not only about, let's say, going and deploying this and this tool or having this and this training. It is a journey of transformation, a journey that starts with clear intent and a vision and a strategic plan, a journey that involves getting the buy-in and really affecting the different levers that get you there, from people to systems to tools to relationships, etc., etc. And then it is about learning from the mistakes we do, because like any journey, there will be pitfalls, there will be roadblocks, and about having the leadership and the resilience to get through that.
You mentioned a strategic plan, and of course the new standards require that every internal audit function have a strategic plan, which I've said I think is long overdue. I mean, I've always led internal audit functions with strategic plans, but there are a lot of chief audit executives out there who roll their eyes at the idea of putting a strategic plan together. And I've heard them tell me, well, I'm too busy to do that. Or how can I plan strategically when the world changes so quickly? Why would I develop a 3-year strategic plan? What do you say to those people?
And you will see probably that these are the people who build the bad rep for internal audit, right? And there is bad rep for internal audit. I say to these people that, if we speak broadly, there are 3 buckets of internal audit teams. We've got a mediocre, a good, and a brilliant. And it's a choice about which bucket they want to be in. And the only way to get from good to great is about having a clear vision and a sense of direction. What is your end game? Where do you want to go? And that is having that strategic plan. And then...
But the plan can't just be an exercise to put something down on paper, right?
Absolutely
I
not.
always found that plan had to be, in my heart. I had to believe in it. And it had to be really geared toward getting me from a point in time where I am now to what you're talking about. This idea of being, seen as a business partner, to be seen as a resource that people go willingly and ask for help.
Absolutely. Well, actually, in all my coaching and training programs, I say that the first step is self-awareness and a decision to change. Unless someone has made a decision to change, you cannot change them. I've developed over the years a program, and it is a flagship program, very elite one, around becoming a strategic business partner, and is actually a continuum over time, because I believe firmly of the power of implementation. It's not enough to just go do a course. So yes, you spend the time understanding the fundamentals, and this program is geared for audit leaders and risk leaders and governance leaders. But then it's about the implementation, because, there's that old adage, wisdom is not knowing what to do, but actually doing what you know. And I see a fascination with people going to do courses, accumulating more certifications and more pieces of paper, and yet not changing the fundamentals of how they work. And changing the perceptions is about winning hearts and minds. The mind part is about us showing the competence, earning the credibility, having the technical expertise, all the left brain stuff that we need. But at the end of the day, audit is a human-centric. An audit department that thrives is one that has a really motivated and inspired team, and one that has built the relationships with the business and the board and all the relevant stakeholders. And so mastering those humanistic competencies to bring it all together are essential.
What do you say when someone says to you, because it happens with me all the time, because I like to think I'm out there advocating much of what you're advocating.
You are.
Thank you. But I get this response quite often. I hear what you're saying, but my CEO does not want me doing all this strategic advice. My audit committee wants me. My audit committee wants me to focus on assurance. My audit committee wants me to focus on financial controls. The question I get is, how do I break through? How do I convince them that I can be more than that?
Let me tell you a story. In my first chief audit executive role, I was actually very young. I signed when I was 32 and started when I was 33. So I was really young.
I was 34, so you beat me. You beat me.
Oh, wow. Good. So we have even that in common. So here you go. I waltz into the exec com, and I think it was week 3 or week 4, and I'm high on the excitement of this is my first chief audit executive role, and I'm going there and telling the CEO about some vision about what we're going to do, and he was a tall man. He stood up, banged the table, and he said, "What is this nonsense? I have no time for this." He kind of stopped
That was
short.
pretty intimidating, I'll bet.
Oh, well, it was. But, it's these moments in life that you decide, do you shrink or do you stand tall yourself too? So at that moment, I walked out of the meeting and I'm thinking, I'm in the wrong organization. This is awful. I want to leave. And actually, I remember calling the headhunter who placed me, and I said, I want to go. And I went, for about a week, I was thinking, I really don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I went and I interviewed with another company again, and that's it. I'm moving. And then I had a conversation with one of the senior partners at Deloitte, who was a good friend. And he said to me, Rania, you have a choice. No one's going to save you. You can go and play small somewhere else, or you can stay and transform this. He didn't show me how. He didn't say how. But that resonated with me. And I said to myself, I am not playing small. And I went back and I had a very open conversation with the CEO. He was still skeptical, of course. But the thing is, the proof is in the pudding. Over the next few months and weeks and months, I completely transformed internal audit. I understand the CEO's perspective because this was a completely broken department that was not delivering value. Every encounter I had with management when I first started, they were saying, your team are borrowing our watch to tell us the time. But then I put a plan together, a plan that targeted the mindset of the team, the relationship with the business, how we build the competencies, what we focus on in our audit plan, changed completely our methodology, changed how we report. And that's what I say, it's a multidimensional strategy. It's not like pull a piece of paper. And then very much went and embedded and implemented and fine-tuned. And slowly but surely, we got great wins. And from those wins, greater wins. And our team was super sponsored. I earned the trust of the board. 80 to 85% of that team is now successful CAEs out there. PwC at the time reduced their fees by 25% because they were relying on our work. And from that role, I went on to another company and learned more, and another company and learned more. And now I learn even more, and I share that knowledge.
But let's go back to the experience with that CEO. So you went back, you sat down, you started working to convince him that what you had talked about at that first meeting was not nonsense, right? What was the breakthrough moment where you finally did something and he said, aha, this is good? Do you remember?
Of course. It was perhaps the very first audit committee meeting after that, because by that stage I had kind of revisited and paused a lot of the work that my predecessor had been doing and taking completely new direction, aligned the internal audit plan to what was his strategic vision, to his priorities, made a pact with the business to look at why they were not looking and implementing their actions, and actually did like a root cause analysis that I presented to the board and backed it up with actions. So it is about pragmatic things that show that we listen, that we take it seriously, that we are aligned to what matters to them. And importantly, I started speaking his language.
Yeah.
He wanted change. He wanted to drive the business in a certain direction. And I aligned with that. So speaking their language is very important.
So I'm sure that there are listeners who are thinking, what they're talking about sounds good. I'd love to be able to do it. But practically, what are some examples? What's an example of something that a chief audit executive could do that shows their key stakeholders that they're more than just box checker, assurance, internal auditors.
Sure. Let me set the scene with management of a closing meeting, let's say. The auditors show up and they say, this is broken, this is broken, this is broken. They issue a lot of best practices. This is how it should be. Now, what is this leader opposite them wanting to do? They really want to perform, shine, get the credit in the business for doing a good job. So instead of like simply hitting them with everything that's wrong, why don't we start with acknowledging first what works? Why don't we give them what works? And when we're presenting an issue, it is important that we also present why it's not there. And I don't just mean about root causes. Of course, the root causes are very, very important to solve the problem. But there are some mitigating circumstances. Unless a leader is intentionally committing fraud or, overriding management controls, and that's a different strategy to deal with them, managers and leaders, and they are under pressure. They don't all have unlimited budgets. They don't all have full competent teams. So we need to represent what is the mitigating and what are the circumstances that have led to this issue, so it doesn't feel like it's a personal attack.
Yeah, it's just where empathy comes in.
Well, empathy, but it's more than empathy. It's logical empathy, if that makes sense.
Right. It's recognizing, I think, that they're trying really hard to do a good job too. And so, while we have a job to do, and in many cases, if we're doing an assurance engagement, it's going to involve identifying some areas that could be improved. It's using that as an opportunity to help the organization get better rather than to score points by saying we found something bad.
Absolutely. Building trust is a process, and we need to demonstrate to the business that we are understanding them, that we are listening to them, that we know our stuff, that we, as you said, empathize with their circumstances. But it also requires us to be emotionally intelligent. We have to read the situation or read the people. And so what I was thinking, the reason I was thinking logical empathy is that I can empathize with you and say, oh, Richard, you are under so much pressure. That's empathy, but that doesn't change anything. When I talk about logical empathy, it's about using the discernment and the clear mindset and strategic thinking to make the right choices and marrying that with our emotional intelligence to read the situation, the people, and offer something. And as part of that as well, auditors often get emotionally intertwined into a lot of the work. And they need to learn to be emotionally intelligent, navigating their own emotions, to come with courage and confidence to those meetings, because confidence generates confidence.
So, Rania, how do you know in the end that you won somebody over? I mean, the CEO that you told us about earlier, obviously you make great progress. You've told us that. You talk about the breakthrough moment, but looking back, how do you think he came to see internal audit?
I would like to reiterate that obviously it's a journey. It's not a success is not an overnight thing.
And it's also not a destination, by the way.
And it's not a destination, but it's not an overnight thing. That particular CEO ended up being one of our greatest sponsors and really believed in us. And he got to know everyone in the team on first name basis, and we were his best allies. Whenever he had a problem, he came to us and we helped him a lot. So how do you actually know that you've done the change? Was that your question?
Yeah.
You know that you've done the change because you see the reactions and the responses. My invitations to my fellow auditors and leaders is, the way you are in your personal lives and the way you are at work is no different. You would know in your personal life if someone is responding to you, likes you or not. So think about the quality of the relationships you have. Are they terrible? Are they so-so? Or are they great? And make a conscious choice to evolve them. People give us signals when they come to you, ask for your opinion, when they listen, when you ask them for a meeting and they give you the time, when you have a quality dialogue with them, that is great sign.
You know, I like the fact that you talked about it's a journey, and that's why I inserted that it's not a destination, because you never get done getting better. You never get to the mountaintop, so to speak. And if you think you have, and you sit down and rest, then you're going to realize that there's higher mountains.
100%.
Yeah, good. So the profession of internal audit, as you know, I don't like cliches, but crossroads or inflection points come to mind. We're at a place right now where we've been talking about a lot of these things that you and I are talking about today for a long time, but it feels different now. It feels like with AI coming and a lot of what we've traditionally done potentially can be done by AI. What is our future? What is the strategic future for internal audit in your mind?
That's a very valid question. Let me answer you slightly differently. And I'd like to start by saying that we have three players that come into the game of internal audit. We have the internal auditors themselves, obviously, and the chief audit exec. We have management, which in my opinion is the easiest to manage. And then we have the board. And I want to take this as an opportunity to really ask boards to step up, because without the right sponsorship and empowerment from the tone at the top, nothing can really happen. We've seen some amazing examples over the world. We're seeing, for example, in the Middle East, that they are now honestly leading the way, whereby governments in KSA, for example, in Saudi, by royal decree, they elevated the IIA to an authority and they mandated how the chief auditor would report. Contrast that with different parts in the world, the governments, regulators, and boards are not taking that serious look at internal audit.
Well, in the United States, most chief audit executives in public companies report to the CFO.
Well, that is also quite common here. And I was recently talking to
someone... You mean in Europe?
In Europe, yes, and the UK. I was recently talking to someone, and she is being asked to report to someone who reports into the CFO, which is even worse.
Like the treasurer or something.
Well, yeah, that's
or the controller.
Yes, this is not only a breach of independence, but this is diluting the importance and the stripping away the value of internal audit and its ability to do its work. So the future, as you said, we are a crossroad. The future could be very bleak if every company thinks about internal audit as an expensive analyst and a police force. So let's replace them all with continuous control monitoring now that it becomes even more widely available in 5 years, 10 years' time with various AI tools and improved automation. But we also have an opportunity. Do we stand here and, please come and take us? Or do we shape our future? And so auditors have the opportunity now to rise, to empower themselves, and to play an active part in shaping that conversation and the future. And the future could be amazing. When chief auditors actually elevate their game and elevate the performance of their teams and become truly the strategic business partner, which I repeat is a multi-dimensional effort, then they are able to demonstrate their value. And when you value something, you don't cut it out. You invest in it. And so there is opportunities now for the CAE to actually have better, more courageous conversations with the board and with management, and importantly, to make sure they are relevant and pertinent, learn about AI. I think it was in a podcast you did that I was listening to, and you said only 4% of audit teams are. Whoa! I mean, come on.
It gets a little better every month, but that was numbers at the end of 2024.
So step up and invest and learn about AI. The other aspect of it is, I think it was it the World Economic Forum? They said by 2027, something like 47% of the skills will be needed that would be human-centric. Teach yourself these skills. Learn how to build relationships and have influence and be impactful and all that.
Absolutely.
And so we've got that opportunity, and that's my invitation to them. Rise up and do it for yourself. No one's going to save you.
Great parting thoughts. Thank you so much, Rania, for joining me today and for sharing with our listeners your passion and your journey. So thank you so much. And to our listeners, thanks for joining another episode of Speaking of Risk and Audit.